Where on earth is my daughter-in-law? She's done with her surgery. Why isn't she back with her change of clothes and hospital essentials? She could at least shoot us a message. As my husband speaks, I hear my daughter-in-law yelling in the background, but it's already too late. Mom-in-law, I'll get my underwear and other stuff at the hospital gift shop. Please, don't go through my drawers. My husband has never been keen on visiting my parents' house since we got married, and it seems the same goes for my daughter-in-law. She and my daughter have kids of the same age, and whenever my daughter visits her grandparents, my daughter-in-law always tries to flaunt her standing. Yep, life's a handful sometimes. I'm living with my slightly older husband, along with my son and his wife. She complained about a sudden stomach ache and was rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, it turned out to be just appendicitis, so it's not life-threatening. My husband and grandchildren also went to the hospital. Once my eldest son arrived, I returned home to prepare for her hospital stay. Sorry, but I'll go back to the hospital tomorrow. That's what I told them, and it led to a shocking turn of events. Sure, marriage links two families together, and it comes with its challenges, but I think that's part of what marriage is all about. I couldn't bear the thought of someone arbitrarily making decisions and keeping it a secret. If this were feudal Japan, it'd be straight to seppuku. I sometimes can't help but think in extremes. I told them over the phone that I would visit the hospital, not on the day my daughter-in-law was admitted, but the next day. I needed time to emotionally prepare. Alright, let's get everyone on the same page. My name is Grace. I'm 62 and work as a freelance funeral service director. Different religions and sects have their own rituals, so it's actually a pretty challenging job, but it's work that needs to be done, so I take pride in doing it. My husband is slightly older, and we met through work. Back in my day, we didn't fuss about how much the other made or what job they had. I got married and had kids shortly after junior college. That's just how it was. Nowadays, I have a job and can support myself. I even find myself wondering, is marriage really necessary unless you're with someone special? My husband is a bona fide baby boomer. He thinks our generation has significantly impacted American culture and society. Maybe that's why he never helps around the house. Today, guys who can cook are popular, but not him. Even when taking care of his parents, he never helped, not even with encouraging words. So I was planning on divorcing him after his parents passed away. But we've spent so many years together, it's not that easy to just cut him off. My husband has retired from work and is now leading a relaxed life. It seems that he's become more mellow because of it. That's what I thought until my daughter-in-law came into the picture. Though he doesn't have many hobbies, he wanted to keep active and extend his vibrant years, as he put it. So he started going to the library. He claims that reading stimulates the brain and that walking around looking for various genres of books also strengthens his legs. But it seems like the only books he actually borrowed were at the beginning. I can only picture him nodding off in the library chairs. Moreover, he never helps with household chores, so juggling that with my job was quite tough. But things got easier when my son and daughter-in-law moved in with us. She's a homemaker, and I'm truly grateful that she helps around the house. My son and daughter-in-law got married 3 years ago and have a 2-year-old boy. The grandchild is adorable, and I can't help but spoil him, much to my own detriment. Despite minor issues, I thought these days would last a long time. I have a daughter. She's 2 years younger than my eldest son. She's the same age as my daughter-in-law, and they gave birth around the same time. My daughter lives nearby and visits often. Maybe that's why they always try to show off their own standing. It's like they're competing to prove whose child is cuter. Ah, you're visiting again? Is it bad to visit my own parents? That's not what I'm saying. Awkward silence falls. Look, the grandchildren are playing together nicely. Isn't that enough? Well, I plan to enroll mine in preschool next year. Preschool? What's that? Coincidentally, we're also planning to send ours. You too? Isn't it too early for preschool? Mom, please keep quiet. Starting at 3 is already late, you know. Exactly! Haha. It turns into this atmosphere every time. My daughter-in-law walks into the room without making any tea. But if preschool starts at 3, my daughter probably won't visit as often. And my daughter-in-law will probably go out more often, so I felt a bit relieved. However, my daughter soon drops a bombshell. Hey, Mom, doesn't that kid look nothing like Jack? She says, observing my eldest son's child intently. Really? They say kids look like various relatives when they're young. At that time, I didn't take my daughter's words seriously. After all, even among grandchildren, I can't help but find the one my daughter gave birth to more adorable. Maybe that's why my daughter-in-law gets in a bad mood when my daughter visits, and that sour mood impacts me. My eldest son and his wife got married through a friend's introduction. By the time they both crossed 35, they were getting anxious, and a friend introduced them. It seems my daughter-in-law had the same motivations. They moved in together because my son's work was conveniently located, and they wanted to have a child soon after getting married. The following year, they had a child, and she became a homemaker. Very much the diligent, perfectionist, middle-aged person. I heard she used to be a wedding planner, quite the opposite of me. She resigned because she wanted to focus on parenting. My daughter-in-law apparently plans to return to work once the kids are a bit older. She once told me she never compromises on housework. During her long years of being single, she learned all about chores and cooking. Every month, she decorates the house with seasonal flowers and is picky about the ingredients she uses. For holidays like Easter, Halloween, and Christmas, she goes all out with decorations. She's a great cook, and her cleaning is impeccable. On the flip side, ever since she moved in, she won't let me lift a finger. "You've been working, mother-in-law, you should rest." "It's no big deal, really. This is my job after all," she'd say, not even letting me clean up after meals. She's even rearranged the flow of household chores in various setups. Apparently, she's switched the contents of the drawers too. She's labeled everything so you know exactly where things are at a glance. My aging husband loves the changes, but it's left me feeling like this isn't my home anymore. "Mother-in-law, you put the towels in the wrong place again." "Ah, old habits. Sorry about that." I'm constantly being corrected. I just wish she'd consult me before making changes around the house. My husband is from the baby boomer generation. People say that they like to go with the flow and follow trends, but he's not like that. My husband is pretty indifferent and doesn't like being part of a group. He's not one to follow trends either. Maybe that's why he's always been reluctant to interact with my family. It's been that way since we got married. While we often hear about living in an era where people could live to 100, studies show that men typically live to about 76, and women to about 81. My dad passed away from illness 2 years ago. He lived a bit longer than the average life expectancy, making it to 78. My mom now lives with my sister, who is 3 years younger than me. One day, my husband randomly asked, "Is your mom still, healthy?" "Yes, she just has high blood pressure at the moment. Otherwise, she's fine." The average lifespan for American women is around 81, you know." "So what?" "How old are you now, mother-in-law?" "I'm 81. What's your point?" "You better warn her to be careful then." "Careful about what? Don't be ominous." "Well, you're a funeral director, so you'll know what to do." My husband would say something like that and then quickly make himself scarce. I was at a loss for words. Flashbacks of my life with my husband flooded my mind. His lack of support in raising our kids, taking care of his parents, and even connecting with my family. Once you start down that path, there's no end to the issues. I began to feel like I'd hit a wall in my marriage. My mom's health isn't great, but my sister lives with her, so I'm not too worried. My sister is a single career woman. She even got her retirement age extended, planning to work until she's 70. Apparently, being single in your 50s and beyond is increasingly common, so it's not a rare story. My husband's lack of involvement with my family also means my daughter-in-law doesn't have much good to say about them either. "Your sister is still working, right?" "Yes, she is. She's single and very responsible." "I assume she's saved a lot of money then." I wondered what her point was. My sister's savings have nothing to do with her. I found it a bit tacky and couldn't understand what my daughter-in-law was getting at. It's been 3 years since Dad passed away, so we all gathered at my childhood home for the first time in a while. The last time we came here, my daughter-in-law immediately said something specific, and this time she brought up the same topic again. "Doesn't anyone clean around here?" "My mom is old, and my sister is busy with work." "Don't you think it's pretty bad?" Even my husband chimed in. "Let's go home after the prayers." "Enough! Both of you!" My sister stepped in front of me and said, "I've done my best to clean up, and we've all gathered here for the first time in 3 years. Can we please stay until the end?" She apologized deeply. My husband and daughter-in-law finally kept quiet, and things settled down for the moment. We finished the prayers, but they didn't touch any of the snacks we prepared, and they left. My eldest son and I felt bad for my mom and sister. When we apologized to them, they told us not to worry, which was a relief. I decided then and there not to invite my husband and daughter-in-law to my family's home anymore. My already stubborn husband has become even more so since living with a daughter-in-law. Or more like, he seemed whipped by her. One day, my daughter came to visit with my grandchild. There are many preschools nowadays, and they were visiting some. They came to update me. My grandchild had been praised for their drawing at one of the preschools. I was delighted and said, "Oh, that's wonderful!" It seems the daughter-in-law overheard the conversation. Upset, but silent, she left the house. Turns out she took our grandchild straight to the preschool. Seems like she had to prove something. Later, she proudly informed me they had done some drawing and got praised for it. She looked exhausted, and it was hard not to feel bad for our grandchild, being dragged along. Could it be that she's overwhelmed? "Well, that's wonderful," I said, probably not hiding my strained expression well. "So, you do prefer your daughter's child over mine, don't you?" Daughter-in-law said sharply before disappearing into her room. She even told her husband later, "Don't let her daughter come over as much. We're a married couple now." Her husband backed her up. "She can come back to her own home any time she wants," I argued. He ignored me, turning his back. I contacted my daughter, advising her not to stir the pot. One day, daughter-in-law complained about stomach pains. "Our grandchild told me, but she keeps saying it's not a big deal." "Your sweating says otherwise. Let's go to the hospital," I insisted. "No, I'm fine," she kept saying. I had my husband talk to her too. But the daughter-in-law insists that she'll be fine if she just takes a little rest. So there I was, handling the chores. Just when I thought it was good that I had a day off, I heard her groan in pain. I called an ambulance right away. I went along, and soon her husband and grandchild followed. Turns out it was appendicitis. Thankfully, not life-threatening. I returned home to gather her hospital necessities, while our eldest son took over. Ever since my daughter-in-law moved in, things around the house seemed to get moved. Even the places where I'd always put my important things had been shifted. I eventually find my insurance cards and toiletries and stash them into my bag. Thinking about grabbing some spare clothes for my daughter-in-law, I start pulling out drawers. Wondering if I'll get scolded for going through her lingerie, I open each drawer in sequence. Finding the one with her lingerie was a hassle, as there was no label. Once found, it's neatly organized, just as expected. Then out of the blue, I notice a box about the size of an A4 paper, in the drawer. It could be soap or something, but what's this box? Curiosity piqued. I opened it and find disturbing pictures of my husband and daughter-in-law. There are also some documents in there. Panicked, I flee to my parents' house immediately. On the way, I get a call from my husband. "When are you coming back? The daughter-in-law's surgery is over, and you're still not back with her clothes and hospital items. Call us." "I'll go to the hospital tomorrow," I say, hanging up. In the background, I hear my daughter-in-law say, "Mother-in-law, please don't open the drawers. We can buy underwear at the hospital shop." But it's too late. I already have my proof. The photo in the box shows my husband and daughter-in-law together. What's more, they're pictured alongside some documents, and both are beaming, holding those papers in their hands. Those papers are for filing for a posthumous divorce. It's the first time I've seen the actual documents. This allows you to sever the marital ties with your deceased spouse's family after their death. I hear it's become 2.5 times more common over the past decade. In the world of public opinion, the most common reason for posthumous divorce is so that when I die, I won't have to be buried in my husband's family grave. It's a legal document. Once it's submitted, it can't be revoked. It's specifically to cut off relations with your spouse's family. You can submit it any time after your spouse has passed away. Moreover, with posthumous divorce, you only sever relations with your spouse's family. On paper, your marriage stays intact, so you can still inherit property. For my job, the only jewelry I wear is pearls. All my other jewelry stays tucked away, and yet it was all found in that box. At some point, they became my daughter-in-law's. Maybe my husband was behind this. It became clear that he planned to inherit my property and cut ties with my family if I were to pass away first. To think he had such low opinions of my family. I took care of his mother and father, you know, but my husband never lifted a finger or offered a word of thanks. Just remembering it makes my blood boil. The day after my daughter-in-law was hospitalized, I confronted her with these documents and a lawyer by my side. "Why are you showing up at the hospital now? You're late." I had matters to discuss with my lawyer. "What? You're consulting a lawyer? I'm not just submitting this, I'm filing for divorce. I slapped down the document, along with a photo of my husband and daughter-in-law holding it. That's why I told you to buy my underwear from the hospital gift shop. My daughter-in-law muttered. That's not what this is about, okay? I'm not saying I want a divorce from you. It's the same thing. This document says you want to cut ties with my family. During the time I took care of my father-in-law and mother-in-law, not once did I receive a word of appreciation. The ongoing reluctance to visit my family's home, even making my sister offer a heartfelt apology. The growing discomfort as things in our house were replaced without any discussion. My jewelry, finding it packed in a box, along with documents. These were the grievances I'd bottled up for so long. I just let it all spill out, more than I could even remember. My goodness, you don't have to get so worked up, my flustered daughter-in-law said, but then my eldest son cut in. What the heck are you doing behind my back? Dad, you too! And that's what I unleashed on my daughter-in-law. Just then, our daughter walked into the hospital room. Did you come to visit? How sweet. In an attempt to lighten the heavy atmosphere, my daughter-in-law even forced a smile. Appendicitis, huh? Did they also operate on your head or something? What are you talking about? Ow, that hurts. Guess it's too soon to be making jokes after surgery. I hope the wounds don't get worse, I thought to myself. I did some digging. Your child isn't Jack's, is it? What? That's impossible. There's no way. Jack's been used by this woman. I made sure to investigate. Eldest son was so shocked he lost his words. Before you got involved with my eldest son, you were seeing someone else, weren't you? We'll let the lawyer do the talking from now on. I returned home and reached out to my daughter. Turns out she also had something to tell me. It was shocking. If the child isn't my eldest son's, then that changes everything. Seeing my distress, my daughter called in a lawyer. She left the room, taking both grandchildren with her. This was not a story for young years. Turns out daughter-in-law was already seeing a married man before meeting my eldest son. She met my son through an introduction, and they got married. When she found out she was pregnant, she wasn't sure who the father was, meaning she was dating both men at the same time. My daughter started investigating when she noticed the child didn't resemble Jack, and DNA testing confirmed they weren't related. She even had investigators dig deeper. Faced with all this evidence, daughter-in-law finally broke down. I never intended to deceive anyone. But you did deceive him. Why not keep going as we have been? Husband, who's become quite friendly with daughter-in-law, seemed unfazed. I'm filing for divorce. Do whatever you want. With that, I left the room. I never said anything about getting a divorce. I pretended not to hear. I'll go to Mom's place. I'll send the divorce papers later. How could you? I thought we were truly happy. Hearing this, daughter-in-law broke down again. She couldn't keep up the facade of a perfect life any longer. A concerned nurse rushed in. Is the wound hurting? Are you okay? And that's when the kind nurse said, It's not the physical wound that hurts, I thought to myself. Husband reluctantly filled out the divorce papers. He can't do housework to save his life. Daughter-in-law can't go back to her parents' home because she deceived my eldest son into having a child. I'd heard she even talked to a married man she used to date, but he paid her no mind and she's not receiving any child support. Probably that married man is dating another single woman by now. Life's tough just relying on my husband's retirement benefits. Preschool seems like a distant dream. My daughter-in-law is apparently going back to her job as a wedding planner, but juggling that and childcare is tough. Moreover, she still refuses to sign the divorce papers with my eldest son. She probably thinks he'll come back to care for my husband when the time comes. Well, life doesn't always go as planned. She must want to have the perfect life. As for me, I'm still working as a funeral service director, while living with my mom, sister, and eldest son. My aging mom seems the happiest with a lively household. My eldest son seems a bit disenchanted with marriage, but I'm hoping he'll find someone new and good. I sometimes think that if I'd separated from my husband when I was younger, maybe I'd have another chance. Planning to make up for lost time by being dutiful to my parents. I'm also talking about maybe going on a trip with my sister, who I've troubled in the past.